Welcome back. What are we up to?
We're up to the next installment of episode 6.
Which is?
Well, I don't know. We really just had the introduction just before.
Oh, jeez.
But we got like a whole slew of new characters already.
3.
That's heaps.
Anji's our storyteller.
For this whole episode. Because was
No, she's
Natsuki...
Aurora? Featherine's storyteller.
That's right.
And
Is this the narration?
This music. Who does this belong to?
Would it be Featherine?
There's only one character who fits this. At one time, only Beato and her fellow witches had gathered in the smoking room to chat. Now, however, an unusually large number of people were present.
You forgot the pop filter.
Yeah. See you going.
I wonder what kind of game Battler's gonna show us.
I don't care what it is, as long as it's fun enough to relieve my boredom as I crush it. Leave everything to me, my master. I will perform to my fullest and give you the results you desire. Yeah, you'd better. I kept making strange faces all last game thanks to you. I hope I don't start getting wrinkles from all that. There's no need to worry. The beauty of my master's face is without peer, no matter how wrinkly it may get.
Wait, I'm a little bit confused. Does that mean what we saw at the beginning was the end of this episode?
That's essentially how episode 5 was.
I've already forgotten how episode 5 started.
It started with Erika declaring Nazi as the culprit.
That's right! No, yeah, you're right, actually. 'Cause... Okay. So it's going to be like halfway through we're going to end up in a wedding that we have to try and get out of.
Who knows? We've already had...
No! Instead of Beatrice bursting through the doors saying, I object! It's going to be Anji! Anji's going to burst through the doors and be like, I'm crashing down on this wedding and there's nothing you can do about it because I am protected by Augustus or Aurora.
That's a good story. Let's find out.
It's rare to see Bern in such high spirits. Beatu's game board really is something else. How sad it is that the master of this game board is no longer with us. A tiger dies and leaves behind its hide. Looks like Beatu died and left the game behind.
Even though chess still exists, no one knows the name of the person who invented it.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Poor game inventors.
Come to think of it, Battler-san really has kept us waiting, hasn't he? Is he still setting up the 6th game?
Gertrude, how have Lord Battler's preparations progressed?
Please allow me to speak, and know that he will be finished very soon. If he's kept us waiting this long, he must be pretty confident in his plan. He really humiliated me in front of my master last time. I'll defeat him no matter what it takes. And you, in particular, make sure you don't screw up again.
I will meet the challenge with all of my strength.
The previous game master, Lambda Delta, had confirmed that Battler understood everything about Beato's game. However, in order to prove it, Battler would have to run this game by himself and carry it through to completion. In other words, if Erika could crush this game of Battler's, she would, in effect, wipe away the dishonor of that last game. Though Erika was chomping at the bit to get started, it was taking Battler quite some time to show himself. At that time, a swarm of gold butterflies popped into existence and took human form. From the shape of that familiar dress, everyone immediately realized who it was.
It's been a while. What was that noise?
I have no idea. It sounded like... I don't even know. Ah, look, it's Beatrice, son. And I thought you died and disappeared last time. The one who died last time was Beatrice, the player. And this is probably just a piece. Battler's piece.
Even if she is a piece, it does not change the fact that it is her.
Beatrice gave an elegant curtsy as she appeared. This humble entrance was so vastly different from her usual high-pitched laugh that it made the long-awaited start of the 6th game feel even more ominous than it would otherwise have.
Father will be here very soon. I ask that you wait just a short while longer. Father? The heck? Is that a new spin this time?
Not only had Beato started talking in an unusually polite manner, she had also used the word father, presumably referring to Battler. For an instant, everyone was stunned into silence, but they quickly realized that this was setting up some kind of theme, and they grinned. Beato wasn't the type who could keep up this kind of act for long. It would probably fall apart in a few seconds, leaving her cackling rudely at everyone. Erica, who was itching for a fight, went for Beato almost at once. I can't believe that incompetent Battler son reached the truth of your game.
I'm sure Father understands it quite deeply. He really is good at that sort of thing.
Still, you're pretty lucky. If Battler hadn't become the Game Master, you wouldn't have revived again. You've really got the luck of the devil, don't you?
The luck of the devil?
Well, either way, I'm going to pay you back in full for last time. You're just one of Battler's delusions, so I'll erase every part of you and knock you down into the abyss of oblivion.
I too cannot allow you such an easy victory. I look forward to having a good, clean fight.
By this point, everyone realized that something weird was going on. There was no doubt that the face, the dress, and the hair were all Beatrice's. However, her expression was different. Even though she had Beato's face, Beato would never show anyone an expression like that.
Who are you?
There was a heavy silence. Lambda Delta spoke for everyone there. At first, Beato had worn a smiling yet blank expression. However, when she realized that the mood had gone suddenly stiff, her expression finally darkened, and she hung her head. Who are you?
You appear to be Lady Beatrice, but are you not?
Even Dillinor was forced to ask, despite the rudeness of the question. That was how much this woman, who appeared to be Beato, was not.
Am I somehow different from the Beatrice everyone was expecting? What are you talking about?
Wait a second. Don't tell me you have amnesia or something.
I was only born recently, so I have no memories at all. However, I will study hard in order to become the Beatrice you all expect.
Beato, I thought I told you to stay in your room. Battler's voice came out of nowhere. His tone was very slightly cold. Beato's expression looked like that of a young girl being scolded. There's the cape that you totally haven't seen before. With a swirl of gold butterflies.
I swear it was there in the last one.
Nah, it wasn't. Battler appeared. His dignified bearing and appearance were fitting for the ruler of this game. However, his expression was gloomy, and his gaze was directed at Beato. Go back to your room. You aren't supposed to be here.
I just wanted to help you however I could, Father.
Go to your room.
This is weird.
He spoke both softly and forcefully. Battler didn't leave her any room for debate. Beato hung her head and curtsied as she prepared to leave the room. Also,
Yes, what is it, Father?
my name is Battler. Never call me by a different name again.
Yes.
Beato melted into a cloud of gold butterflies and disappeared. This was the first part of the tale with Battler as the game master. The witches had all assumed that he'd come forward with some flashy big developments, so this was all completely unexpected to them. Their mouths were still hanging open. This is a pretty weird take on it. Pardon me. Please forget what you saw just now. You're playing dumb, but this is all just part of your plan, isn't it? You're scheming to give us the wrong impression, like another North Wind and the Sun strategy, aren't you?
Is there something wrong?
Don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you people.
I see. Guess it doesn't matter then. Okay, Battler. Start up the new game right away. You've kept us waiting for so long it's gotten totally boring.
Sure. Let's start the 6th game. Erica, and you too, Berncastel. This will be my tale, proof that I've reached Beatrice's truth. Lambda Delta, please watch this game until the end, as a former game master.
Sure, looking forward to it. What's the title?
Dawn, as in the dawn of the Golden Witch. Sure, if we're talking about a winter sun that goes below the horizon right away. Of course, my master. I'll drag it back down for you. At least your naming sense is good, Battler-san. I'll give you that much. I'm glad you like it. Then, let's get started. The 6th game will now begin. Battler solemnly announced the start of the game. That is the 6th. Compared to his fired-up attitude at the end of the previous game, where he and Erica had sworn to settle everything next time, he was extremely quiet now.
I gotta remember. Angie, Beata seems to have changed a lot since we last saw her. I'm surprised too. I don't know why she just turned into Blinky Bill. I don't have a clue what's going on. I don't even get why Beata is alive in the first place. I just finished reading it a second ago, but at the end of the previous tale, didn't she die just before Battler reached the truth? There are 2 kinds of death in this world. One of them is when a piece is taken from the game board. Such a death exists only within the bounds of the game, and these lives can revive over and over again each time a new game begins. That's why the witches are so merciless when it comes to taking those lives.
To the Witch players, the lives of those characters who appear on the game board are no different from pieces on a chessboard that take other pieces and get taken. After all, these pieces will be set up again when the next game starts.
Maria's Sakutaro is a prime example of these. Sakutaro is One-chan's piece? Yes, that makes sense. In the game board that represents the inside of One-chan's head, Sakutaro certainly does exist, and it is a piece that always stays by her side, though he's nothing more than a stuffed animal in the real world. On One-chan's game board, he's no less of a piece than any other. But I wonder, if he were a piece in a witch's game, it should be possible to revive him easily, right? But One-chan wasn't able to revive Sakutaro in her world. That's because she lost that completely unique stuffed animal that was his vessel. Because of this, the conditions for that piece's existence were violated, and it became impossible to revive him on Maria's game board. The only reason you were able to revive Sakutaro on the game board was because you once again satisfied the condition for his existence, correct? True. Maria One-chan was only unable to revive him because she had lost the stuffed animal that was his vessel. If, like the rest of my family on Beato's game board, she hadn't needed a vessel for him, she would have been able to revive him as often as she wanted. I get it. It makes sense that Sakutaro was One-chan's piece. At least, as long as his vessel was okay, he could have been revived over and over again. Correct. As long as his vessel is safe, he can be revived over and over again. That's what the life of a piece is like. That's the first kind of death in this world. What's the second? That's the death of beings outside the game board. To continue with the Sakutaro example, this would be like Maria's death. You mean not her death as a piece, but the death of the real One-chan, right? Not necessarily. Loss of interest or concern would have the same effect. When Maria outgrows playing with stuffed animals, Maria the game player will die. It's as quick and easy as turning off the switch on a TV when you get bored of it. I see. In that case, Beato the player completely gave up on winning during the last game, so she died and vanished. Which means if Beato ever comes back thinking she's got a chance of defeating Oni-chan, that'll mean she's come back to life, right? Logically, that is true. It's the same for humans, witches, and even gods. If they lose interest and concern, they can die at any time. And if they regain that interest, they can revive at any time. However, though the concept of time does not exist in the world of gods, and they can revive whenever they want, time shoots by like an arrow in the human world, and it isn't so easy there. That's true. Skipping school for one day might not be a problem, but if you skip for 3 days in a row, it'd be really hard to convince yourself to go back. And what if that's stretched out for a month, a year, a decade, or 1,000 years like in the world of witches? I see. If you skipped class for that long, it'd mean your death socially. After being dead that long, not only would you be unable to catch up on all you missed in the world at large, you'd also lose any motivation you might have had when you left. So even though you'd be alive, it'd be fair to say that you died once. You would never again be able to regain that self that you once were. It would never come back to life. Beato lost any chance or hope of winning. Even though she knew this, she pretended not to and kept on fighting for many, many games. So Beato will not return. Her hopes were crushed. She spent all of the willpower that she might have used to regain the will to fight. Therefore, that Beatrice will never revive again.
That Beato, who just sat around the whole time with empty eyes in the 5th game, must have been her corpse. She managed to remain on the game board despite it all, but then even that corpse was wiped away. If Beato had been the game master at the time instead of Lambda Delta, the game board itself would have vanished at that moment and everything would have ended. Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure this is Angie.
Alright. Come to think of it, Beato started to lose the will to fight near the end of the 4th game. When Beato loses her will to fight, the world of this game disappears. However, the witches wanted to keep playing in this game board world, so Lambda Delta bound Beato in place with that cursed shackle that looks like bleeding spiderwebs. She used that shackle to fix the game board in place and prevent it from disappearing. Even if Beato did lose the will to fight, in chess this would be the equivalent of removing the set time limit for each turn, making it endless. However, simply having the game endlessly paused on Beato's turn would cause the witches to die from their illness of boredom. That's why Lambda Delta took the position of Game Master. Starting then, Beato's existence was no longer one of the conditions necessary for the game's existence. That probably is why the shackles binding her to the game board were released. And that explains why she disappeared in the 5th game. So, when Oni-chan managed to reach the truth, it was one game too late for him to tell Beato about it. The 5th game was a form of charity on Lambda Delta's part. She merely showed Battler some mercy as to the Witch of Certainty, acknowledging his strong desire to reach the truth no matter what. How can you call that charity? It's just those fickle witches killing time. Let's get back to the point. So that means this weird Beato isn't the player Beato. She's just a piece Beato. True. If that is the case, she should eventually become the Beato everyone knows. I imagine this is the Beato that Battler wants.
The Battler that Battler wants.
The Battler wants. You mean he wasn't satisfied with just a doll? When... I don't know who this is. Is it the narrator?
I'll just get a narrator. When playing with dolls, one can project the personality they most desire onto the doll. However, since you are acting out their part, nothing unexpected can ever happen. You cannot hope for any unanticipated happiness, unless they start talking to you like in Toy Story. In the human world, there is nothing so boring as a pre-established harmony. That's why, though a doll can become a person's best friend in the world, people eventually get bored and outgrow them. Yep.
Oni-chan only wants the real Beato. He couldn't bear having a doll that only acted like Beato. But Beato is dead, according to this. Who's speaking?
I don't know. One has their mouth open, but I feel like it's not them.
Yeah. If you go to the next one, does it give us a hint?
No, you have to go for it.
No!
Make the guess.
No! Okay, it's got the dots, so I'm gonna say it's Anji. Because, I can't remember what her name is. Finkelstein. What is her name?
Finkelstein?
Finkelstein.
Featherine.
Featherine. She seems pretty sure on what she's saying. So, it's always, like, mostly full sentences.
I have seen one sentence with her ellipsis, at least, though.
Okay. A Beato born as Battler's piece would probably move according to Battler's wishes. That's only natural for a piece. Pieces move however their players tell them to, and they can't do anything else. I see what it is Oni-chan wants. So what's up with this weird Beato? Battler might be trying to revive Beato in the truest sense. That is the never-dying dream held by children of man. What's so funny?
Double ellipses.
Oh my goodness.
In one paragraph.
You just used the red to say that wasn't possible. That Beato will never revive. However, that doesn't mean that it is impossible for Beato to be born again. Have you forgotten? I believe that Burnecastle herself revealed Beato's true form at the end of the first game. The first game? No one can remember that long ago.
Angie can.
Where was Angie in the first game? Now, I remember. She said something about how Beato exists as the incarnation of a rule. Information began to be accumulated based around that rule. And in the end, it took the form of the witch known as Beatrice. If that pattern is followed once more, the same Beatrice will be born again. And perhaps one could call that a resurrection. In other words, that weird Beato is Beato as an egg, or maybe a chick. That interpretation is probably accurate. In short, this Beato is a chick who might grow to become that Beato. I think that was still Angie. No? And that means this pure and lovable kid will eventually grow up into that screwed up, crazy witch. In other words, that Beato is a baby version of the Beato we all know. So just like how no person is born evil, the newborn Beato isn't evil either, even though she really is a different person. If you measure her by her root, or perhaps her soul, then maybe you could really call this a resurrection. However, this reality can't possibly be easy to accept. Though she may technically be Beato herself, she is also, without a doubt, a different person. And that way she acts would make anyone feel as though something's out of place. How entertaining. Hearing you read aloud is far from boring. I doubt you'd even really need someone to read aloud for you. It looks like you already know everything. I only reached that thought because I am engaged in a conversation with you. My thoughts are more numerous than the stars in the sky. I only appear to know everything to a child of man like you. However, without you here, I am nothing but a weak, sickly person, without even the power to think. If you just said that in the first place, I would have agreed to read for you a lot more easily. My mood just happened to improve. Don't get an overswelled impression of yourself. Your life means less to me than a leaf one has lost after using it as a bookmark.
Sanji.
Please keep reading already. Is that pretty much what you're trying to say? Far from boring. You really do make an excellent Miko.
Featherine rocked back in her rocking chair and looked up at the ceiling, laughing as though the conversation itself was pleasant for her. Anji was slowly figuring out how to deal with this strange witch.
So, was this witch in the anime?
No, they never got to episode 5.
Okay. How did they end it then? Did it end?
They ended it where episode 4 ended.
So it never reached like a proper conclusion of finding the truth. It just ended.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
Yep. Hopefully someday soon, after the new Higurashi finished. This person was also bored. It's not uncommon for a sick person who's bored from being bedridden for a long time to start acting rebellious. On the other hand, they can also get a little bored of being treated kindly all the time. She may want to be shown respect for her superiority, but it's probably more interesting for her when she's spoken to rudely.
What a coincidence. That's exactly how I used to be. Anyway, from what we learned in the 4th game, there's no doubt that there's been some kind of antagonism between Beato and Oni-chan in the past. Learning about this Beato might give us a key to finding the truth. It does seem so. It has caught my interest as well. Let's read her tale too. Oh, sure, as you wish, my master.
When Anji raised her hands like a conductor, the bookshelves in this bizarre study responded. Once again, several books floated out and began to swirl around Anji. Kinzo's study is the room belonging to the master in the human world. So, this study in the world of non-humans belonged to the master of the game board, and was a place where he could look down upon the humans. Therefore, one could hardly be blamed for mistaking the imposing, berobed man in the center of the study for Kinzo, if for only a second. Actually, I feel like Anji would be a good narrator because she is the one reading this story.
Alright. Welcome to my narration! As Anji or just me narrating?
As like a narrator Anji, so you don't have to be depressed Anji, just be like Anji voice, but normal.
But it wasn't Kinzo. This was Battler, the one who had taken up the position of Game Master, becoming the new territory lord of this world. Nothing. Around Battler was a swirl of glowing fragments, sparkling like the night sky. And on the floor was what appeared to be a red magic circle. To an outsider, it would seem to be nothing more than an incomprehensible geometric shape. But to Battler, who stood at its centre, it was the outline for a new tale. A new line grew across the magic circle, following Battler's gaze. Then, at the instant it connected with the complicated symbol, the entire magic circle flashed brightly. He's got the Kinzo, like...
How does it look? It is splendid, Master. The 6th game is complete.
As Battler wiped his forehead and finally relaxed, Genji, who was standing behind him and watching over his every move, nodded deeply in response.
I always thought being a game master meant you could make the tale however you want. But this is seriously harder than I thought. You must write up multiple tales and make the inner and outer sides of the story match.
Is Genji human?
Though, truly, you have displayed such skill. It is hard to believe that this is your first time. I believe even Erika-sama will be satisfied with this game. Well, hopefully it matches that great detective's tastes. Still, I've got to honestly respect Beato now. I can hardly believe that she managed to make tales that complicated and do it so easily. Easily. Far from it. Beatrice-sama also worried, racking her brain over various contradictions each time she created a tale. She was constantly battling with logic errors.
Is that like an insight into the author's mind?
What?
Like contemplating the logic errors and the contradictory bits.
Well, let's have a look at this now, shall we?
What are you looking at?
I've only read like the author's note. And then there were none, which I finally found at a bookstore, which I will get around to reading. So this is from Agatha herself.
Yeah?
She said, I had written this book because it was so difficult to do that the idea had fascinated me. 10 people had to die without it becoming ridiculous, or the murderer being obvious. I wrote the book after a tremendous amount of planning, and I was pleased with what I had made of it. It was clear, straightforward, baffling, and yet a perfectly reasonable explanation. In fact, it had to have an epilogue in order to explain it. It was well received and reviewed, but the person who was really pleased with it was myself, for I knew better than any critic how difficult it had been.
Interesting. When are you going to read the first chapter?
I will read it once uni's done, probably.
Oh, true. Yes, I remember when I was at uni, just the thought of reading recreationally was challenging.
But yeah, like, for a story like this, with so many parts and like hidden clues and all that stuff, you gotta put in there and make sure that there's no rules, I guess, being broken. Logic errors, which you'll find out a lot about in this episode. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Is Genji human? You ignored my
Genji
question.
is a human. He's right there. He is.
I'm like, how is Genji like aware of all of this stuff? It's just too convenient.
We already know that there's a runaway, and his name's Runaway Genji.
It's Runaway?
Well, it's not Runaway, it's Runaway in like Japanese.
Oh, really?
But it's
true.
in English in Romaji it's Runaway, but it would be Runaway.
Runaway.
I don't know. It's hard. Japanese, man. Logic errors?
Yeah, we got to do a study. Getting sidetracked. Whoa, what happened there?
That is when the two sides of the tale do not meet, creating a contradiction. When this happens, it becomes a fatal violation of the rules known as a logic error, and the game board will immediately collapse and be destroyed. It is the greatest and worst form of error that the witch side can make, and one which must always be avoided. So, Beato got close to bumping into those many times in her games. She fought with them every time she created a game. I believe it grew even more difficult for her as you became more and more formidable as an opponent. So, do you think this game I've made is good enough to show Beato? Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, what is in my eyeball? Beato hasn't woken up yet, has she? It's been a while since her body was formed as a personification of the rules. Is she still not awake?
After remaining silent for a while longer, Genji answered.
She woke up here 3 days ago. You were concentrating on the construction of the 6th game, so I decided to wait before telling you. My sincere apologies. Oh, really? Yeah, I'll bet she's still all drowsy after sleeping so long. I really wanted to show her my game. No, it's more than that. I have to show her. I need to tell her that I've understood everything.
Battler's face broke into a smile. There was no trace in his expression of the hatred he had once felt towards Beato for murdering his family. In a way, that was the final riddle of the 5th game. Yes, when Battler reached the truth, there was a great change in his impression of Beato. So, should we assume that there really was something between Oni-chan and Beato, and that he forgot all about it? However, Battler suspected that in the 4th game, and asked Beato about it. According to the tale, this was denied by the Red Truth. 6 years ago, no person called Beatrice existed for Battler. We can read this as saying that Beato did not exist 6 years ago, or it could simply mean that she had no connection to Battler at that time. However, either way, Battler did not visit Rikkenjima at all for the next 6 years. October 4th, 1986 should have been the first time Beatrice and Oni-chan met. If so, why was there already some kind of antagonism between them? I don't have a clue what it means. That sin of Ushiromiya Battler's, which Beato took Battler to task for in the 4th game, might give us a clue. The result of that might have been Beatrice herself. The result? The result of Oni-chan's sin was Beato? That almost sounds as though Oni-chan created the witch called Beatrice himself. Almost as though Beatrice was Battler's piece. Huh? Battler sinned 6 years ago. Because of that sin, people died. The one doing the killing was Beatrice. If you consider the possibility that everything is connected to Battler's sin 6 years ago, then the one who created Beatrice was Battler himself. I thought it sounded almost as though she was Battler's piece. But I thought the rule was that Battler couldn't be
The culprit.
the culprit.
I'm not saying he's the culprit.
Well, it sort of implies that he's the cause, though.
Yeah, it was in red. It was like people die because of you, because of your sin. Of 6
Was
years
there
ago.
an accident 6 years ago?
Who knows?
Because the past death that we're aware of was the 19 years ago one, right? Right? With the Natsuki's adopted child.
It was the baby of 19 years ago.
Yep. But I don't know about...
6 years ago.
6 years ago was when he
6 years
rejected
ago
the family?
is the last time he went to a family conference.
Yeah. And then he's...
And then after that, he was absent.
Hmm.
That's when he had his falling out.
Yeah. I don't get it. Even if Oni-chan sinned in some way, his crime couldn't have been anything close to murder. If this huge massacre is in retaliation for what he did, then it's totally out of proportion. Beato killed our family, dad, mum, Oni-chan, everyone. I can't believe that Oni-chan's sin was anything deserving of that. The weight of sin depends on the person measuring it. Even a sin so light that Battler might have forgotten could have been so serious that Beato, that she hated him enough to massacre his whole family a full 6 years after the fact. Well, even I find that a bit excessive, and more importantly, if she were a person like that, I would find it hard to accept that Battler would act so friendly towards her after discovering the truth. Featherine's observation was an interesting one. In a past game, Beato clearly said that Oni-chan's sin 6 years ago was the cause of this 2-day tragedy. I still don't know what kind of sin that was. However, he figured out what it was at the end of the 5th game, and he even apologized to Beato. Even though she was the witch who had massacred his entire family in retaliation for his sin of 6 years previous, Battler apologized to her. Of course, it was the player Battler who apologized, not the peace Battler whose family had been murdered over and over again. But even so, Battler must have remembered something at the end of that last game that made him feel like apologizing. Does that mean this sin was from 6 years ago? Is hidden somewhere in the tales we've seen so far? I have already formed a certain theory on that matter. Oh, let's hear it. I cannot tell you yet. I want to enjoy being the only one who knows the answer for a little while longer.
It's like there's people who are like, I know what it is, and they won't say it.
Yeah.
And then when it happens, they're just like, yeah, I knew it. And it might have been something else.
Well then, I guess I'm done reading for you. Well, we can't have that, can we? Have some patience and read a bit further. My theory is still nothing more than a guess. Once I'm certain of it, I'll tell you. Okay, my master. I actually do want to hear what comes next, after all. Oh, whoops. Just what kind of connection do Oni-chan and Beatrice have with each other? Understanding that will probably give me a massive clue towards finding the truth of this world. After all, because he remembered that, he was able to reach the truth. Where are we?
Beatrice! It's probably meant to be a bit happier than that, but...
Welcome, Master. Beatrice Summer is waiting for you. This way, please.
Why did she turn into Kumasawa Vigilia combined?
I know.
Fusion.
It's been a while.
Gundam fuse.
Is it still me reading?
I think you can keep going.
Okay. This place was a villa set aside for Beatrice's use. It was a sacred site for her only, built so that she could spend her days without being affected by the outside world.
That's so annoying. My heart began to race. I'm so glad that she was able to revive and that everything's okay. Beato is a personification of the rules. So, even though she was destroyed once, it's possible for her to be reborn again.
Is there, like, some game they used to play if it's about rules? Like, back when they were kids and they stopped playing the game because Battle wasn't there anymore?
Red light, green light?
Red light, green light. I don't know. Bella had quickly succeeded in reviving Beato's body, but he'd had trouble summoning her soul back. However, during the time he'd spent immersed in the creation of the 6th game, she had woken up, and this had happened 3 days ago. Battler let himself be led into the dining hall. The dining hall had been set up for his and Beato's use. It existed so that they could enjoy some black tea while having conversations that were only possible now that he had reached all of the truth.
I want to tell her. I want to tell Beato that I found the truth.
Battler couldn't hold back his excitement over this miracle he'd been granted. The miracle of Beato waiting for him in the dining hall to hear what he had to say.
How is Beatrice? Same as usual? Is she doing well?
Oh, yes, she is doing quite well. She has been waiting for you all this time, Master. Oh, yes.
So she's in the dining hall. Is she eating or something? That's okay. It doesn't matter either way.
Oh, you'll be surprised.
Beatrice!
When he swung open the doors to the dining hall, Battler was greeted by a wonderful sight. Though the food laid out on the table wasn't particularly sensational, it was arranged beautifully, and a champagne bottle stood there waiting.
What?
Then the person clad in that familiar dress with the beautiful golden hair bowed deeply in greeting.
Beatrice.
You have my sincerest gratitude for giving me this form.
Come on, don't worry about that. I'm so glad, Beato.
Battler rushed up to Beato and hugged her tightly, just to make sure her body wasn't just a mist or an illusion.
I solved your riddle for you. But then before I could tell you about it, you went and disappeared.
I am right here. I will not disappear.
It's okay. You can stop talking like that. I'm not going to ask you for anything in return. Anyway, I want to apologize. And I want to talk with you. I don't even know where I should start.
You have done nothing that you need to apologize for, Father. I am glad just to be of service to you.
Beato?
Beatrice was born for your sake, Father. Please let me support you. And, Father, congratulations on completing the 6th game.
I told you stop talking like that. You're creeping me out.
Do you find this style of speech displeasing? Please forgive my rudeness.
Well, I don't find it displeasing, but it's not like you. I guess I like the way you usually talk best.
Beato smiled vaguely. To Battler, it probably looked like as though they were both smiling at the unusual way she was talking. However, Beato's smile literally was vague and uncertain. After all, she didn't know how she was supposed to talk.
Anyway, Beato, just what kind of joke is this? Don't tell me that the great Beatrice Summer decided to cook for me.
When I heard that you had completed the 6th game, I wanted to see if I could prepare a modest reward to congratulate you. Ho! Beatrice Summer really worked hard to make this. I didn't even need to lend a hand at all. No, I didn't. The food set on the table really was modest oh my goodness.
Inexpertly.
The food set on the table really was modest and expertly made. You could tell by looking at it that Beato, who wasn't particularly skilled with cooking, had given it her all. However, signs of discomfort and irritation were beginning to appear on Battler's face.
What's going on here?
Well, as she said, Beatrice Summer wishes to congratulate you. Sweat was starting to show up on Kumasawa's forehead. She was also feeling uneasy. When he noticed, Battler realized that it wasn't just his imagination. Beato turned her back to Battler and stuck a corkscrew into the champagne bottle. Then she showed it to Battler. Father, congratulations on the completion of the 6th game. In the hopes that you will prove victorious over your long-time rival, Furudo Erika. When presented with a champagne bottle and a sound like that, anyone would think that the cork had been pulled out. However, it wasn't the cork. It was the bottom of the bottle. The high-quality champagne that Beato had procured splashed out all over the floor and her dress. Then the same sound repeated several times more. Each time, one of the plates of food on the table was knocked into the air. Father, did you find the food displeasing?
Who are you?
I am Beatrice. I was born for your sake, Father.
That's not right. Who is this? This isn't Beato. And anyway, don't call me father. What's going on here? What is this? Didn't I revive Beato? Genji, what's this all about? My apologies, but that is indeed Beatrice Summer. Are you kidding me? How's this supposed to be Beato? She's totally wrong, a fake! No, this is Beatrice Summer. This is, without a doubt, Beatrice Summer, who was born in accordance with the rules of the game board. No, this isn't anything like Beato. Beato would always talk in that weird way and laugh rudely, and... No, this is most certainly Beatrice Summer herself. Then why is she talking like that? Why is she calling me father?
Beatrice Summer was only born a short while ago. It would be far too cruel to expect her to act as she once did so soon.
Are you saying that her memory hasn't returned yet? Master, this person truly is Beatrice Summer herself. However, she is not the Beatrice Summer you know so well. What are you talking about? I'm the Game Master, right? Why can't I revive Beato?
Beatrice Summer has revived. However, the old Beatrice Summer lived for 1,000 years. This Beatrice Summer, on the other hand, was only born a short while ago. If she appears to be a different person, well, that just can't be helped.
Then, how can I revive that Beato? Her body is right here. How can I revive her soul? If she lives the same 1,000-year life again, she should become the same Beatrice Summer she was before. Are you telling me to wait 1,000 years?
A person's personality isn't decided solely by their birth. It can change drastically based on how they live and what they experience. Do you understand?
My question to you.
Even though she is the same Beato, she is not the same. Why has she changed forms? Wait, is she asking us?
She's in the cafe.
Okay.
Or wherever they are.
I'm so confused. I'm waiting. I get it. You get it. I don't even get it. Even if you had two of the exact same person, they could change enormously depending on their upbringing. Oh yes, that makes sense. Even though they might be both the same human to start with, their upbringing could change them so much that they effectively become two completely different people.
You did like at least a little bit of psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that nature versus nurture.
Mm.
Which one is important? Both.
Usually we use the term person to refer to a person, not their personality. However, since humans recognize a person by their personality, those two might as well be different people, from a human perspective.
That's so true. If that tragedy 12 years ago hadn't happened, this little lady of ours might be a cute girl who could smile without looking weird.
It's a good point, though. That's just rude. I'm plenty cute as it is. I understand. If a personality is what makes a person in our eyes, you could probably say that a second personality represents a different person entirely, even if it inhabits the same flesh body. At the very least, I'm a completely different person than I used to be 12 years ago. And if my family had come home 12 years ago, then the Anji that resulted would surely be a completely different person from me. Even a single human can become a different person. In fact, depending on their upbringing and endless possibilities, they can become an endless number of different people. So just because this is Beato, that's no guarantee that she'll become the Beato that Oni-chan knows so well. And on top of that, Beatrice is a witch who lived 1,000 years. People can die and be reborn in just 3 days. 1,000 years, such a huge amount of time. It seems you're quite a skilled reader. For most of my readers, it would be necessary to spend several hundred pages to explain how a single person can become different people depending on their upbringing and time. I feel like this is a stab at me. Don't underestimate your readers. We aren't just reading. We read and we think. If I make 100 people read it, about 90 will be able to. However, only 50 will actually understand what it means. And not even 20 will actually think beyond that. And all I ask is that they think it over a bit. Nothing more than that. However, it seems that you are one of those precious 20 readers. That's why I invited you here, child of man. It was seriously hard to like this Hachijo Toya person. However, though this forgery she had written was still in its first stages, it definitely felt as though it contained something very similar to the tales in those message bottles. Speaking metaphorically, one might call it a scent. An indescribably unique and stern atmosphere, like a stuffy library. The Beatrice who wrote the message bottles and Hachijo Toya are different people. And yet, this has the same scent as that tale. I see. This is why some of those curious witch hunters are so intensely devoted to her. Their keen sense of smell was able to sniff out that familiar scent. Very well, then. Please continue reading. There could be nothing more entertaining than watching your face as you glance over the words. That and speaking with you. I guess it's true that writers are always starving for opinions on their works. However, sorry to disappoint you. I don't have time to read all the way through this thick manuscript. More importantly. And yet, you have plenty of time. Both the second hand and the pendulum on the ornate clock behind Hachijo had been moving the whole time. However, absolutely no time had passed for a while now. Only about 3 minutes had gone by since the time she had entered the room. See? Time isn't one of your problems. No sort of time will chase you away until you've finished reading.
Next page, lady, next page.
Amakusa badgered me to turn the page, so I returned to the world of the tale once more. Why does her tail have the same scent as Beatrice's? I wonder. Is it because she actually has reached the truth, as she claims? Does this mean that anyone who knows the truth could create an endless number of message bottles? Is that how the Catbox world works? I see. I guess she might also be an endless witch. In fact, maybe anyone who knows the truth can become an endless witch. An endless tale created by the endless witches. The 2 days starting on October 4th, 1986, when my family is being toyed with endlessly. I have to end it. I have to find a hint of the truth from within this story and end this endless tale.
What do you think, Beato? How's this 6th game I've made? Well, you're not the type to give me an honest compliment anyway. You'd probably say something more like, not bad for an incompetent fool like you.
Not bad for an incompetent fool like you.
Now that I've seen what it's like to be a game master, it's pretty clear. I wasn't the only one who had it rough each and every game. Creating a game is far from easy. I certainly never expected us to recognize each other's efforts like this.
Creating a game is far from easy. I certainly never expected us to recognize each other's efforts like this.
All wrong. This isn't Beato.
Battler slammed hard on the desk, but the piece Beato showed no reaction. After all, Battler hadn't ordered her to react. It would be easy to revive that Beato as a piece. However, it would only move according to Battler's wishes. Having a conversation with it was no different from talking to himself. The Game Master could summon any kind of piece. He could move those pieces in any way he wanted, reigning as an absolute god. However, for that very reason, they were just pieces. That made it unbelievably lonely and sad.
You created many kinds of furniture, as well as several tales in the past. When I saw that, I was sure you were having a great time doing it.
But that's all wrong. Are you sure it was her?
You were unbelievably lonely. It's like him
imagining a conversation
through her.
Okay.
Yeah.
It must have been such a relief for you, having an opponent like me who could actually go against you. Yep, I'm painfully aware of that now. Are you sure?
Yeah, it's like he's speaking in a mirror, but Beato's the mirror.
Okay.
That weird, polite Beato really was you, wasn't she? The way you were 1,000 years ago.
And yet, she's a different person. That's Battler.
No, oh yeah, it is. The way she looks just like you is what I really can't get over. I can't stand it.
However, she isn't a piece, so she can go against my will.
That Beato is much more alive than a piece like you. I get that. But it's all wrong. That isn't you. She's a completely separate person, like a long-lost little sister or something. And that's why I just can't accept her.
As much as he hated the peace version of Beato, Battler felt an even stronger dislike for the chick Beato. Even after a whole 1,000 years, she still wouldn't become the original Beato. Even if she were ordered to act like the original Beato, it would just be an imitation. This was a very similar but separate person, and definitely not Beato herself. So, in the previous game, Beato really did disappear for all eternity. Even after becoming the Game Master, there was no way to revive her.
Laugh. Laugh at how pathetic I am. Just give it a rest already. You're just an illusion who won't laugh unless I order it, and you can't even continue to laugh unless I keep on ordering it. Just disappear.
The end?
Good chapter transition.
It was pretty good. I had a question before and I forgot it.
What?
I can't remember. It was thoughts.
Remember.
Just remember.
Remember who you are. Simba.
No, it was to do with the Beatrices. I don't know.
What? Chick?
I had a theory there and then it sort of went away because I got distracted.
Cosplay Beatrice?
I don't know.
Or the old and new?
I think it was like the old and the new, like, I don't know. The conditions for her to get the way that she was.
Yeah, she has to repeat basically the exact same life to become the exact same person.
Why did
Well,
she?
not-
Why did
yeah.
she appear in the same form though? Is it only because Battler's the game master and he wanted that form? Like, what's like if it's a condition of the rules? Why doesn't she revive as a different looking person?
Who knows?
You don't know. You're there. I don't know. It's not important.
Well, well, what do you think about it?
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
What?
If she died, like, you can't expect her to revive. Well, is she a piece?
The piece was the thing that he was talking to himself. But the other one was like the actual Beatrice.
So that's an actual Beatrice that has been born,
Yeah.
and that's the chick Beatrice.
Yeah. Can you think of a way to explain what's going on?
No, because I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, can you think up a way to make it make sense? This is what I'm asking.
I don't know. I'm thinking, technically going by this definition that they've put through, she's been absent for the last... since Game 4? Is that because she's not the game master anymore? Because you had
She gave up.
Lambda Delta as the game master last episode, and Battler's the game master this episode.
She lost her drive to play the game.
But all he needs to do is for her to have the drive to play the game, and then she'll come back, according to Featherine's logic. Like, she's
Well,
like,
she
if you
said
have the
that-
will to play, you'll be revived again.
She said that her... what was it, like her hopes were crushed or something? And so that she'll never be revived again or something like that.
See, I find it's really conflicting because when she's the game master and she's doing all these horrible things, you don't want her, like, you don't want her to win, but then there's this weird, like, relationship that Butler has, or some fascination with her, where, like, you want her to win against the other witches. I don't know, it's conflicting, because I'm like, I don't like you, Beatrice, and then you're like, oh, poor Beatrice, and then it's like, oh, no, what's happening, this isn't Beatrice, we want old Beatrice, but this new Beatrice is really nice. She's gonna end up going crazy and sadistic just from, like, having to deal with Butler being like, you got it wrong, speak this way, blah, blah, blah. My rant is over.
Well, I don't want to say too much, because, like...
You are that person who's like, I know what happens, but I'm not gonna tell you.
No, but I know what happens.
Ah!
Like... I want to ask, but at the same time, this is stuff that'll eventually be shown. So I don't know if it's time yet or not.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, like, can you spot any parallels?
No, nothing's coming to my mind, but if you point me in the right direction,
No,
I might
I'm not
be
pointing
able
you
to.
anywhere. I'm pointing you to the door.
Ah!
Alright.
So will we potentially have new sprites the next time we do this?
Maybe. We'll see how it goes.
Maybe. For
Yes.
all the new characters.
You mean for this episode?
Well, yeah, you wanted to find them yesterday, but...
Yeah, I was trying to get the sprites up yesterday, but we didn't have time for me to go through all that because it was late. Anyway. Alright, we'll leave it there.